Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Eerie Hour with Erich. For those who wish to hear tales of the strange, the macabre, and various urban legends, you have come to the right place. Tonight, join us around the fire as Erich reads a spine-tingling tale for your entertainment. Prepare to be scared, for this is Eerie Hour with Erich. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here is your host, Erich.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Eerie Hour with Erich. I'm your host, Eerie Erich, and welcome to Around the Candlelight this time, where we tell scary stories of the strange, the macabre, and various urban legends. Now, for those of you that don't follow our Facebook page, the county we live in has issued a burn ban, which means we can't go outside, we can't utilize our fire pit. It's, the authorities get very, very upset about things like that. So we decided to stay within the legal boundaries and hold things indoors by candlelight. But I still think it adds a nice touch, don't you think? Before we get started, I just want to make an announcement about the upcoming video that's going to be released on Halloween night this month. And it is going to be an abridged reading of Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I think that's very appropriate for Halloween night. So look for that video on the October 31st. Tonight's story concerns a paranormal investigation into the strange and unknown happenings going around a family home. Imagine, if you would, you're sitting at the dining room table, or in the living room, or in your bedroom, you're in the kitchen, wherever you may be at, and all of a sudden, an object suddenly levitates, and then it flies across the room and BAM! Smashes straight into a wall, or a door, or a window, or whatnot. And this has been going on for several days. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's story concerns just that. This comes from the Compendium of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz, and is entitled The Trouble. But first, I need my reading glasses. Yes, Benny, I know, it's going to be scary. Hold on a second, I need to adjust my light. Yes, Benny, we all know. For those of you that don't know, that's our cat Benny. Just don't mind him. The Trouble. The events in this story took place in 1958 in a small white house in a suburb of New York City. The names of the people involved have been changed. Monday, February 3rd. Tom Lombardo and his sister Nancy had just come home from school. Tom was going on 13. Nancy was 14. They were talking to their mother in the living room when they heard a loud pop in the kitchen. It sounded like a cork had been pulled from a bottle of champagne. But it was nothing like that. The cap on a bottle of starch had somehow come unscrewed, and the bottle had tipped over and spilled. Then bottles all over the house began popping. Bottles of nail polish remover, shampoo, bleach, rubbing alcohol, even a bottle of holy water. Each had a screw cap that took 2 or 3 full turns to open, but each had opened by itself, without any human help. Then they had fallen over and spilled. "What is going on here?" Mrs. Lombardo asked. Nobody knew. But the popping soon stopped and everything went back to normal. It was just one of the hectic things, they decided, and put it out of their minds. Thursday, February 6th. Just after Tom and Nancy got home from school, 6 more bottles popped their caps. The next day, at about the same time, another 6 did. Sunday, February 9th. At 11 o'clock that morning, Tom was in the bathroom brushing his teeth. His father was standing in the doorway talking to him. All of a sudden, a bottle of medicine began moving across the vanity by itself and fell into the sink. At the same time, a bottle of shampoo moved to the edge of the vanity and crashed to the floor. They watched, spellbound. "I'd better call the police," Mr. Lombardo said. That afternoon, a patrolman interviewed the family as bottles popped in the bathroom. The police assigned a detective named Joseph Briggs to the case. Detective Briggs was a practical man. When something moved, he believed that a human or an animal had moved it, or that it moved because of a vibration or the wind or some other natural cause. He did not believe in ghosts. When the Lombardos said they had nothing to do with what was going on, he thought that at least one of them was lying. He wanted to examine the house. Then he wanted to talk to some experts and find out what they thought. Tuesday, February 11th. A bottle of holy water that had opened a week before opened a second time and spilled. 2 days later, it spilled again. Saturday, February 15th. Tom, Nancy, and a relative were watching TV in the living room when a small porcelain statue rose up from a table. It flew 3 feet through the air, then fell to the rug. Monday, February 17th. A priest blessed the Lombardos' house to protect it against whatever was causing the trouble. Thursday, February 20th. While Tom was doing his homework at one end of the dining room table, a sugar bowl at the other end flew into the hall and crashed. Detective Briggs saw it happen. Later, a bottle of ink on the table flew into a wall and broke, splattering in all directions. Then another porcelain statue took off. It traveled 12 feet and smashed into a desk. Friday, February 21st. To get some peace, the Lombardos went to a relative's house for the weekend. While they were gone, everything at home was normal. Sunday, February 23rd. When the Lombardos returned, another sugar bowl took off. It flew into a wall and smashed to smithereens. Later, a heavy bureau in Tom's room toppled over, but no one was in the room when it happened. Monday, February 24th. By now, Detective Briggs had talked to an engineer, a chemist, a physicist, and others. Some thought that vibrations in the house were causing the trouble. These could come from underground water, they said, or from high-frequency radio waves, or from sonic booms caused by airplanes. Others said that the electrical system was the cause, or downdrafts coming through the chimney. The popping of bottles was blamed on chemicals the bottles contained. Tests showed that there were no vibrations in the house, there was nothing wrong with the electrical system, and there were no chemicals in the bottles that would make them pop. Then what was causing the trouble? None of the experts knew. But every day the Lombardos received dozens of letters and telephone calls from people who thought they did know. Many believed that the house was haunted. They thought that a poltergeist was on the loose. The noisy ghost that is blamed when things move around on their own. No one has proved that poltergeists exist, but people everywhere have told stories about them for hundreds of years, and what they have told was not too different from what was happening to the Lombardos. Detective Briggs did not, of course, believe in poltergeists. He had begun to believe that Tom Lombardo was to blame. Whenever something happened, Tom was usually in the room or nearby. When he accused Tom of causing the trouble, the boy denied it. "I don't know what's going on," he said. "All I know is that it scares me." People said that Detective Briggs was a tough cop who would turn in his mother if she did something wrong. But he believed Tom, only now he didn't know what to think. Tuesday, February 25th. A newspaper reporter came to the house to interview the family. Afterward, he sat in the living room by himself, hoping that something would happen that he could describe in his story. Tom's room was just across the hall from where the reporter sat. The boy had gone to bed, but he had left his door open. Suddenly, a globe of the world flew out of the darkened room and smashed into a wall. The reporter dashed into the bedroom and turned on the light. Tom was sitting in bed blinking as if he had just been awakened from a sound sleep. "What was that?" he asked. Wednesday, February 26th. In the morning, a small plastic statue of the Virgin Mary rose up from a dresser in Mr. and Mrs. Lombardo's bedroom and flew into a mirror. That night, while Tom was doing his homework, a 10-pound record player took off from the table, flew 15 feet, then crashed to the floor. Friday, February 28th. Two scientists arrived from Duke University in North Carolina. They are parapsychologists who studied experiences like those that the Lombardos were having. They spent several days talking to the family and examining the house, trying to understand what was going on and what was causing it. One night, a bottle of bleach popped its top, but that was all that happened during their visit. They did not tell the Lombardos about a theory they had that a poltergeist actually might be involved in such cases. According to this idea, poltergeists were not ghosts. They were normal teenagers. They had become so troubled by a problem that their emotions built up into a kind of vibration. Since it was taking place in their unconscious minds, they didn't even know what was happening. But the vibration somehow left their bodies and moved whatever it struck. It happened again and again until the problem had been solved. Scientists had given this strange power a name. They called it psychokinesis, the ability to move objects with mental power or mind over matter. No one knew if this could really happen or how to prove it, yet most reports of poltergeists did involve families with teenage children, and there were 2 teenagers in the Lombardo family. Monday, March 3rd. The parapsychologists said that they would prepare a report on what they had learned. The day after they left, the trouble returned with a vengeance. Tuesday, March 4th. In the afternoon, a bowl of flowers flew off from the dining room table and smashed into a cupboard. Then a bottle of bleach jumped out of the cardboard box and popped its top. Then a bookcase filled with encyclopedias fell over and wedged itself between a radiator and a wall. Then a flashlight bulb on a table rose up and hit a wall 12 feet away. Finally, 4 knocks were heard coming from the kitchen when nobody was in the room. Wednesday, March 5th. While Mrs. Lombardo was making breakfast, she heard a loud crash in the living room. The coffee table had turned over by itself, but that was the end of it. After a month of chaos, everything returned to normal. In August, the 2 parapsychologists gave their report. They decided that the Lombardos had not made up the story, nor had they imagined it. Their trouble had been real. But what had caused it? They said that no pranks or tricks were involved, nor was any magic. As the police had done, they also ruled out vibrations from underground water and other physical causes. The only explanation they could not rule out was the possibility that a teenage poltergeist had been at work, moving objects with mental power. They did not have enough evidence to prove it, but it was the only answer they had. If it was a poltergeist, they thought it was Tom. If they were right, if a normal boy like Tom became a poltergeist, this also might happen to other teenagers. It might even happen to you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? those that watch my show that have teenage children, would this ever happen to you? Would this ever would an object suddenly levitate off the ground and fly into a wall or a door or a window or anything like that? Well, that's a story for another day, as I must be off. Thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's episode of Eerie Hour with Eric. If you like this episode, be sure to give this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe, and make sure to hit the notification bell so that you get all updates on new episodes of Eerie Hour with Eric, as well as Behind the Eerie Hour. And also make sure to like us both on Facebook as well as Instagram. We would really appreciate it. But before I go, remember that dreams can become reality. But at the same time, dreams can also become nightmares. But can nightmares become reality? You be the judge. Ladies and gentlemen, tune into the next episode of Eerie Hour with Eric. If you dare.